Today on 7th Circle Gaming. Get out your action figures and defend those towers because we're going to be playing Hypercharge Unboxed. And after a bit of full disclosure, we'll take a look at a couple of screenshots. If you'd like to pause the video and read these a little bit more closely, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we'll move on to our screenshots. And on our first one, as usual, we like to show you what the game world looks like. Quick note, what we're looking at here is going to be the build phase of the game. So there are a couple of extra items, like the ability to construct various traps, the indicator of which trap is currently being constructed, and the cost of those is located at the bottom of the screen. At the top left of the screen is the health of the various towers that the game is going to expect the player to guard, for want of a better phrase. And at the lower right hand corner of the screen is the player health, as well as a couple of useful hints about what various keys are going to do. And of course these will change whether the player is playing through the game with a keyboard and mouse or a gamepad. Onto the game world itself, what we're looking at is a fairly realistically rendered world that could be either various rooms in a house, or it could be rooms in a shop. One quick note about the in-game world is that all of the maps are going to be unlocked by completing the previous mission. Moving on to our second screenshot, one of the other major portions of the game is customization. Now, players are going to be able to customize their character in a variety of ways, most of which are going to be unlocked through completing various challenges in the game. However, some are available for free. And moving on then to one of the other unlockables that players will be able to purchase in the game. These are those traps that we mentioned earlier in that first screenshot. Most of what you're seeing on the screen are available from the start of the game. The only one that isn't is the glue trap. However, that's really neither here nor there. And moving on then, that's our last screenshot. So, in our first chapter proper, which as always is immersion, Hypercharge has earned a 3 out of 15. The game will be utilizing primarily player agency to get players invested into its in-game world through the ability to customize their character appearance and loadout. Also, the game will be utilizing very heavily the presentation to get players invested in the in-game world. As presented in a first-person perspective, as you saw earlier, in a realistic world with the fantastical element of the action figures come to life. The game will be finally utilizing challenge to get players invested into the in-game world, in the sense that the combat is going to be fast-paced, with a lot of hidden objects to find and challenges to complete. Difficulty-wise, Hypercharge has earned a 5 out of 15. The gamepad controls, while unusual, are not something that the player cannot adapt to over time. The keyboard controls are not terribly unusual. The user interface, on the other hand, is fairly simple and easily understood. There are several options for difficulty, however the effects of those are only basic. Not that it really matters, the game isn't terribly difficult at all. And now then, let's talk a little bit about lasting appeal. Hypercharge here has earned a 3 out of 15. The game lacks mod support, and it isn't likely to get any anytime soon. The game has only at present cosmetic DLC, however, again that could change. There are only 2 game modes available for single players. That is going to be the campaign mode, in which missions are tied together very roughly by comic book-like story cutscenes. There's also the option of a free roam mode, in which any map that the player has completed can be explored for very low stress. The game has limited maps available, however, it's not necessarily a terrible amount. The game will be making significant use of its combat and aesthetic to get players or to keep players playing through the game, rather. And speaking of which, let's compile everything into the overall score. Overall, Hypercharge Unboxed has earned at present a 3.66 out of 15. It does make significant use of the aesthetic of toy soldiers or action figures, pick your word there, come to life. The game exhibits fast-paced tower defense gameplay. There is some customization that is available for free, the rest is unlocked through achievements. So there isn't going to be any purchasing in-game currency here. The gamepad is usable, however with some adaptation. The keypad or keyboard is usable right out of the box. On to a couple of highly subjective statements here, so please have those grains of salt ready. The game is cheap, fast, and fun, at least for a little while. Certainly compared to other games on the Steam marketplace that are tagged as tower defense games, it's fairly reasonably priced. Now on to one final subjective statement. The game doesn't necessarily seem to be made for single player, however it is playable as a single player game. And with that, I will just say thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. Stay tuned for our next review, which is going to be Baldur's Gate 3, unless something else comes up. And until then, from 7th Circle Gaming, goodbye.